The NCAA Men's Water Polo Championship bracket is here. We know the 4 teams headed to the D3 National Championship. Plus, we've got winners at the CIF regional level. It's all coming up next on a brand new Counterattack. Hi everyone, Greg Mescall here. Thanks for joining us on the Counterattack here on USA Water Polo and Overnght. We're wishing you a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great holiday week. You get some time to spend with family and friends. And now let's talk water polo, because there was a whole lot that happened this past weekend, especially in the college ranks. It was College Conference Championship weekend on the men's side, and trips were earned to the NCAA tourney and the Division III National Collegiate Championship. Let's start first with the MPSF and the USC Trojans winning again. USC, they have made the MPSF tourney their own proving ground. 4 straight years they've won the MPSF championship title. They do it again, defeating UCLA, the top seed. Trojans' only team to defeat the Bruins this year, and they've done it twice. And that was an important victory, as we'll show the NCAA bracket soon. But first, on to the Big West. UC Davis, they are back into the NCAA tourney. The Aggies battling through the gauntlet that is the Big West to come away champions to the WWPA. How about Concordia? For the first time ever, Concordia making the NCAA tournament. Congrats to Coach Justin Johnson and the entire squad there on punching their ticket. We go back east, the Northeast, some familiar faces here returning to the NCAA fold. Princeton, winners of the Northeast, they are headed back to the tourney yet again. Mid-Atlantic, Fordham, for the 5th straight year, they are champions, and they return to the NCAA tourney. And then in the West Coast Conference, San Jose State is back in the mix. The Spartans won a couple of years ago. California Baptist winning last year. San Jose State back again as they head to the NCAA tourney. That led us to our bracket. Let's take a look at our NCAA championship bracket here. No real surprise that UCLA and Stanford earned the at-large selections after Stanford was able to move past Cal in that 3rd place match in the MPSF championship. And of course, UCLA, the odds-on favorite coming into the weekend. They've been the number 1 team throughout much of the regular year. So they're headed in as well. And the matchups here, again, the intrigue, Fordham, San Jose State, that's one that everyone will have circled for that quarterfinal round. Also, watch out for Princeton, UCLA. The way things are lined up, if the seeding holds, you'll see the same semifinal matchups we saw last year. Those were very exciting. Quarterfinals, semifinals streaming live on NCAA.com. Championship live on ESPNU, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on December 7th. Now we got to talk Division III and the other conference championship that went on this past weekend, the SCIAC, coming out victorious, Claremont Mud Scripps. And this carries a lot of weight for CMS. They'll get a chance for the first time to play host to the Division III Men's National Championship. And you can see the other teams that will be joining them. So Claremont Mud Scripps and Pomona Pitzer, the Sage Hens, often in the mix as a contender for this championship. Their pools are around the block from each other. CMS will get a chance to host this time around out in Claremont. And then representing the CWPA, Augustana, they've made this a regular experience. And MIT as well, joining the field. All of those matches streaming right here live on Overnght. You've got the semifinals on December 6th, and then you've got the final on the 7th. I will not do a 6-7 thing. That's someone else's job, and they'll take care of it. We'll have a video on that soon, but we are aware that is the date. Make sure you tune in live to all of those matches as well. So you've got streaming from both sites throughout the weekend, a chance to watch a lot of high-level water polo. Wishing all the teams best of luck there. We'll have more looking ahead to those championship events next week right here on the Counterattack. And now let's talk high school champions. The CIF handing out their sectional titles earlier this month, but then in certain parts of the state, they also have regional champions. Let's take a look at some of the big winners here in the high school ranks. And now time for our big conversation, and it's a big one. It's a long conversation here, but it's one that I hope you'll find impactful in this Thanksgiving week and a reminder of all the things we should be grateful for, including the sport of water polo and how it can help in ways that go far beyond goals scored and championships won. We talk with head coach from the Jesuit High School Boys program in the Sacramento area of California, Josh Ford. Josh Ford, homeless as a young child, then enters the foster care system as a teenager, lives in some 12 different foster homes, eventually comes in contact with a mentor. It's called the CASA program, court-appointed special advocate. And this person changes his life, introduces the sport of water polo to a young Josh Ford. And while his personal life continued to kind of go through ups and downs, water polo provided this amazing stability and access to this community that, as you'll hear, provided so many people who took a vested interest in his journey and did their part, big or small, to help him find success, not just as a high school water polo player, but then as a college water polo athlete at American River, and then on to becoming a high school coach. So we talked about what is a challenging journey through the foster system and how he worked his way through that, the role water polo played, and then some messages to share at the end of maybe how you might be able to help someone in a similar situation, or if you find yourself a teammate of an athlete like that, ways you can just make them feel normal and help them be a part of the structure that water polo can give to so many young athletes around the country and across the globe. So here's our big conversation with Josh Ford, and we're grateful for him spending some time with us this holiday week. All right, our latest big conversation here on the Counterattack. We're talking with Sacramento area high school water polo coach Josh Ford from Jesuit. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Good to talk with you. You have a great story for those that watched. We shared on social media this week. CBS Sacramento doing an awesome feature on Josh and his journey through the foster care system and how water polo helped, and now where he's at now. We'll talk about that path, but since we're right here in the postseason, we're talking before NCAA tourney time in college water polo. You're coming off the playoffs. Tell us a bit about Jesuit's year this year. I know you didn't go as far as you wanted, but what'd you love about this year's team and kind of the path they took?
Yeah, for our guys this year, first and foremost, I should always start it with my teams always know they're my family. I said that in the CBS piece previously for Sacramento as well. We had a really, really strong bond. We were young. We were on the younger side, so a lot of juniors, sophomores, even some freshmen, which for Jesuit sometimes can be a little unheard of. I'm sure for most high-level programs probably feel the same way. But it was kind of a slow build, right? It took some time to get some pieces to fall into the right place. And I think the bonds that we made this year and knowing that we're only graduating 2 seniors and they're coming back is huge for any program. But for us specifically, there's a lot of buy-in. And I think with this story and stuff, some of these guys kind of found some motivation to really go all in, and especially for such a beautiful sport. So
for folks that are watching from really anywhere in the world or across the country, kind of give us a little snapshot of the high school water polo scene in Sacramento. Where does Jesuit kind of fall in the pecking order of trying to climb the ranks? Is there a dominant program? Just kind of set that scene for us.
Sure. Yeah. Jesuit is historically one of the stronger programs here in the Sacramento area for the San Joaquin section. You'd be remiss not to mention Davis. Rio certainly is in that conversation now. Granite Bay, Rockland. There's a high passion and a high love for water polo here in Sacramento. And I'd say Jesuit. I think until this year, it was Rio and Rockland in the Division I finals. But up until that point, I believe it had been Davis and Jesuit in the section finals since 1995 consecutively. One or the other was in the section finals since 1995.
So a lot of good water polo there. I know fans often think about Alex Obert, the Olympian, coming out of the Sac area, flying that flag proudly for Sacramento. But there are obviously so many other great players. So awesome to get a little glimpse there. And I know we shared all the champions recently on the USA Water Polo Instagram. Let's talk about your story. And I know I've worked in local news. Sometimes you only get 2 minutes to tell a story, right? And it doesn't really kind of dive into all of it, although I thought they did an excellent job, and it's kind of the impetus for this conversation. What a path you've been on! What a life you've led! You're not that old, right? But to be where you're at, you've mentioned this in the piece. Kind of tell us what went on in life. You find yourself in the foster care system. How did that come to be? And then how did water polo insert itself into your life?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, absolutely great piece by CBS Sacramento for time restraints and everything. There's a lot more information to that story. I'll try and give an abbreviated pathway to that. But yeah, my early years, I just kind of lived with my mom before she developed some kind of habitual drug usage in the Central Valley in Visalia, California. And that ended up getting me. We were homeless for quite a number of years, so we'd bounce around from house to house. And finally, upon one of those, movements between house to house, I got placed into the foster care system in Visalia, California, Tulare County. And then I went through multiple different foster homes, kind of just struggling with where I wanted to go in this life and what was happening. Not really motivated by any means to do much. But on my 14th birthday, I was told I was very, very lucky that I was going to get a CASA worker. And my kind of thought process was, I don't think anybody really understands what luck means in this world. I do not feel very lucky. But sure enough, I was extremely blessed and lucky to have somebody, Major Rogers, a CASA worker, come into my life. And at first, it was just somebody that was there to, hang out and listen. Like, there's so many people in foster care that are paid to be around you, and not to take away from their jobs either. It is an important job as well, social workers, anybody in that realm. But a CASA worker is somebody that specifically is in your life based off donation. Like, they want to be there. They want to try and help and kind of be a mentor, guidance. And anyway, essentially, he told me that I needed to play a sport and get good grades. And I was kind of like, this life, I'm not sure if that's something I'm really interested in. So he had the intelligence, as it were, to know, like, all right, well, I'll get you a cell phone. And if I get you a cell phone, will you do it? And I was like, okay, if you can get me a cell phone, I'll play a sport. And he goes, well, a lot of guys in the Central Valley have played football all their lives or basketball. You might be able to. This was probably 2010. Oh, it would have been 2008. So it was right before, really, like, especially in the Central Valley, that club, stature of you have to play club all the way through if you want to be able to do it. I was kind of the last piece, because now the Central Valley has some pretty strong clubs. But I was like, all right, well, I'll do. He goes, I played water polo. So, excuse me, Major told me I played water polo when I was in high school. Maybe that might be a good fit for you. So I went out during conditioning week, where you don't get in the water, and they were running and sprinting. And I remember trying to quit that day and saying, like, no, I don't think this is it for me. This is not going to be the sport. Is there something easier by any chance? But he told me, all right, if you finish the week out and you stick with the sport, I'll keep my end of the deal as long as you still get a 3.0, right? Super, super good advice. So I'm running the stairs, finally get in the water. I'm getting crushed by all the other guys who swam their whole lives. I'm like, this is brutal. But finally on Friday, so throughout the whole week, right? Friday, we got the balls out, as I'm sure most athletes can relate to, the end of conditioning week. All right, you can shoot around for a little bit, or you can pass the ball. Had to do some head up sprints. And again, I was getting crushed in all the swimming. But because I was new to the sport, head up actually came much more natural to me. So I was kind of keeping up with some of the faster guys and the varsity guys. And I was like, wait a minute, I might be okay at this. Like, if this is what this sport is, I might have a better chance. And then finally we got to passing and shooting, and I was in love with it. I fell in love with the sport right then and there. I was like, oh, this is something I really enjoy. By the next week, I forgot about the cell phone. I was just excited. I had to walk to practices, and I was getting up early and kind of starting that journey of, like, how long has this sport been around? Who's good in this sport? It's, obviously, as we know, especially at that time, recognition was pretty much only through stuff that you had posted in your channel and getting that kind of information. So I've obviously been a fan of yours for a long time. And finally, throughout that time, I know this is a little long-winded story here. I was still kind of bouncing homes a little bit, and I had a teammate that was coming in when I was a sophomore that was going to be a freshman. And I think around that time I was in my 10th or 11th foster home, but I was really focused on water polo. It kind of gave me this new, core and structure. I had teammates, I had a family, dependency, like accountability, discipline, reliability. And I had a teammate that came through. He was a freshman and I was a sophomore, named Mario Bravante, who I think coaches club now. I can't remember where it is, but I know he coaches club, I think in the East Coast. And we just competed in everything. Everything. It was passing, shooting, like who could outplay the other one. So it was a rivalry, but as I'm sure most people that go through this sport know, or any sport, rivalries can lead to and breed strong competition and make you a better player and see the game in different ways. And eventually he and his family offered to have me come stay with them. And I had heard that kind of thing before when you bounce around foster homes and make good friends, like, oh, you can come live with us or whatever. But he stuck to his guns and he was true on it. They took me in, and my CASA worker was still there by my side the whole time. But I believe it was my junior year. Major's wife passed away unexpectedly. She developed, I think it was lung cancer. I can't remember for sure. And I remember he was kind of floating through. And by my senior year, our head coach, Jacob Abel, another big mentor in my life, was going to start a family. And we told Major, like, man, it would be really cool if you wanted to do this. I think he had some history either coaching at Fresno High or maybe Fresno State at one point. So there was some history there. And Redwood, Visalia, where I'm from, Redwood High School, had always been around 500. Nothing great, right? But okay. But there was looking like there was going to be some potential the next year. So Major says, all right, I'll put an application in. If it works, great. If it doesn't, whatever. Sure enough, they take his application, they give him the job, and then we go through and we win league, or I think we came close to league and undefeated. And that was a really good season. And yeah, I mean, stop me at any point, because one thing just leads to the next here.
I think it's helpful just to kind of like unload that timeline for people. A couple of things just to throw out there, just to clarify. You've said the phrase CASA, that's court appointed special advocate, right? But it's someone who's volunteering, but the court signs off on them being involved in your life, right?
Right. So they essentially get a background of your whole history from the court, so they get to know kind of what you've gone through and what the status is for your parents or your background history. So yeah.
Now, so much movement in your life. I was reading one bio of you. I think it said 12 different foster homes and a lot of movement. And then you find this sport of water polo. First part of the question, how challenging is it to move around like that and the uncertainty that comes with it?
It's tough. Super difficult for a kid, right? And I think California's passed some measures to make sure that you can stay in your school district, but that wasn't always guaranteed. And especially when, you just got into this team, right? Or you're building these relationships that don't always come natural or easy for foster youth. It can be really, really nerve-wracking, especially when, the number one thing I think most foster youth either consciously or subconsciously want is consistency. And consistency goes such a long way. I mean, obviously in our sport and in life and people that you rely on and depend on and enjoy seeing. But yeah, a lot of movement, and then trying to make sure you can still make practice. And, it's not my foster parents. I'm lucky, even though I went through multiple different homes, most of the time in most areas, they were always trying to make sure, especially when I got in with the Bravantes, but even before that, they were trying to make sure, all right, well, he's got to get to practice. He's probably going to have to walk there and back today or whatever. But I mean, there's a lot to it, right? It's a lot to be an athlete as it is at high school, college, wherever.
Is the clock ticking on each of these? So you get to a placement and it's like, all right, I'm here. I have 3 months and then I know I've got to go somewhere else, or is it more abrupt than that?
I mean, it depends, right? Like I'm certain Major always had a good quote for me and for people when they'd ask about, it could be behavior or something that was going on. you would say, look, teenagers already can be a pain most of the time. Now you give one every reason in the world to be one, it can cause some issues. So I'm sure some of it fell on me as well, of behavior or whatever, right? Like, oh, he's not home, or where is he? And whatever. But then also, yeah, a lot of it can just be like, yeah, we thought we wanted to do this. We don't want to do this anymore. And, that's no fault to the individual or their side or whatever. I mean, the end of the day, foster parents are trying, for whatever reason, to do something for their community and help those people. So, but yeah, I mean,
and then just to go off what you just said, because I think if your only experience with this was watching in a movie or on a TV show, right? Your perception is like the kid involved is maybe pretty angry, or they're unruly, or something else like that, right? And you kind of hit on some of the behavior stuff. Like, how challenging is that to work through? Like, for me, having never experienced this, right? Like, if you were just a perpetually angry person, I would understand why. Like, it would make total sense to me. Like, man, it doesn't feel like I got a fair shake in life for whatever reason, over and over again. It sounds like you have been able to work through that. It's a tremendous testament to you and kind of your journey. I'm curious how you did that. How you got to a place now where you can talk about it, and I'm sure you have your days, right? But how you get to a place where you can talk about it the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a story that I've kind of waited and I've known is good, and you tell it in person to certain people that you trust or whatever, right? And they're always jaw drop, like, what in the world, right? Like, but it's people, right? I mean, it's coaches. They say it takes a village, right? For anybody. Well, I feel like I've had a continent behind me of good people that, like, I mean, my college coaches, my high school coaches, major. I mean, so many friends and we haven't even touched on the college side yet for JC, but like it is perseverance. And it is, the sport itself was a big part of it. Like, you have to have something that you love and you treasure and gives to you what you give to it. But it, I mean, the big thing is perspective. Yeah, it is easy and there certainly are days and times where you kind of go, how many bad hands can you get? But I guess, especially in my mid-20s and as things continue to work themselves out and you kind of just put your mind towards it and want to reach goals, like, I'm really grateful. Like, there's a lot of people that have invested and put time into me to, like, I mean, we could say Major as one example. He's certainly a big one. I mean, he's the one that threw me in the water, but there's a lot of people that I have met through water polo and through, my experience as an athlete and now a coach, that everybody wants to see, an underdog or somebody that goes through these experiences succeed. And I'm a competitor. Water polo made me a competitor. I want to be that person, who's like, those things don't define me, right? And that's another thing right now with this, right? And coaching is, I never want to be identified as just somebody who went through all those things. I want it to be like, oh, he went through all that and it made him stronger. It made him a better coach. Like, I dived into USC DVDs that a JV coach had for me of all their practices, and like, it's not enough just to get to that spot. It's also and I know I'm going in a million different directions, but
you brought up a good point about routine, right? And how kids in your situation are craving structure and routine. There's in many respects no better structure than a sports team, right? Especially one that's motivated and with goals. As you're kind of going through this fluidity at home, what did it feel like to be able to, like, sink your teeth into something that was chock full of structure and routine and purpose and like-mindedness?
Yeah, it's a shell shock. It's a shell shock for sure, right? So much of my life before foster youth, I was homeless. I would take, my mom's EBT card to go buy food, and you make your own hours. I didn't go to 3rd through 6th grade. So that was survival, right? And in a lot of ways that helped me with this sport, like with press defense or zone or a 50-50 ball, like, I'm going to come up with that ball. Like, there is something to be said there. But it took me a bit, right? Like you fall into structure and, hey, you need to be here at this specific time, stuff that most teenagers struggle with anyway, right? But, but once you kind of start seeing the fruits of that labor, right? The discipline that comes with it and what that reward is from the work that you put in, and be that your own individual skill or, playtime or whatever it is for the sport, you fall in love with it and you start realizing, and look, water polo has room for creativity as well in the plays that you do or whatever, right? But that structure and discipline just goes a long way, especially for teenagers in any capacity, right? Like even my team and teams I've had before, any good team I've seen, like that structure and discipline can go a long, long way. And the word discipline sounds so scary, I think, to some people, but it's a beautiful thing. And it just helps kind of organize and put the pieces in play, right? Like, especially for gifts and stuff that I think I had and athletes I've seen have, that when that falls in line, I mean, it can do some beautiful things. And our sport is one of the greats that can combine chaos with discipline and make something beautiful.
That's a new marketing slogan: chaos with discipline. Right, water polo. I read about your time at American River. I think it's like you're just chock full of inspiring moments. I think I'm waiting for the Hallmark movie about Josh Ford. But so you started at American River, right? You have to take a step back from it. You're coaching younger kids, and they kind of learn about your path a bit and kind of convince you to get back into the college game and go back to American River. And then when you get there, you find success. And I just wonder what that was like, where, again, it was another moment where you kind of had to start and then had to step back, but then this community seemingly, and you tell me if it's different, but seemingly kind of lifted you back up to where you wanted to be.
Oh, 100%, Greg. I mean, you nailed it. So yeah, I came to ARC in 2014, and I was determined to do it on my own, and was homeless as an athlete here, kind of bouncing around. I had some structure, some teammates a little bit, but, and those are my early college years, right? And was just trying to make a name for myself at JC Ball for ARC and get play time. But like I said, navigating homelessness, food scarcity, like all these things, trying to get a job. Yeah.
Josh, give some context there. So you turn 18, and then there's no more foster housing. How does that process work, and what does transition look like, or what should it look like as you age out?
Yeah. So California has a program called AB 12 for foster youth that when you turn 18, you essentially can be paid as your own foster parent, which is a great program. And I got really lucky that as it continued to be on the board, it got extended each time. So at 18, you can get paid for your own, which is a great thing. It's a great thing, but it's also a little nerve wracking, right? When you're 18 and you're just being given this money, try and figure it out. So I was a beneficiary of a program called AB 12 that would give money to foster youth. So you were essentially your own foster parent until you were 21. It wasn't enough, right? Like it never will be, especially with time in California, excuse me, specifically. But so I was trying to kind of make do with that while you go to practice, while you're full time student, and then find a job that works around practice hours. I was really lucky that I had a really, really good coach there, but it just wasn't time yet for me. Like it was a little too much to carry. So I went back to the Central Valley, and my water polo coaches, Major and Andre Sfrinko, one of my JV coaches in Visalia, like, hey, we'll help you kind of set this up and reset and get a job here. And if you want to coach at Golden West in Visalia, you can come through and help out with that. So that's kind of where I had helped a little bit of coaching when I was 18 before I went to ARC, American River College in Sacramento, with Redwood. But my real first coaching started at Golden West, and it was right after a year that they had been the first Visalia team to win Division I. I think it was over Buchanan. I'm sorry, Nick Mays. I know he's going to be frustrated to hear that. Who's a good friend of mine now. So I was in a good program and I was starting to kind of see like, all right, this is what, structured good athletes, especially for that area, always speaking like prospectively. And, I think it was my second year. I was just coaching JV. Maybe it was my third. I think it was my second. I think I only did 2 years. And, and I had some really, really good kids, and I was helping varsity, assistant on varsity. In the end of our JV year, there's a kid, I believe his name's Wyatt Benson. He looked me in the eye and he told me, why did you stop playing? Like, why'd you stop playing? And it was kind of tough to hear. It was like, well, I was kind of fumbling. I wasn't making enough money, struggling a little bit in school. And he's like, why don't you just try again? And I kind of brushed it off a little bit. And I'm not kidding you, Greg. I think it was a week later, I went home and I had this like really bizarre dream. And I was at ARC college in the pool, and I was looking up at the lights. It was like the lights of the pool at night, and people are just going erratic, like crazy, crazy. And that was it. And I woke up and I was like in a cold sweat. I was like, what in the world? Like, that is bizarre. I was like, and sure enough, it kind of got the pieces moving in my mind. And I called Eric Black, the coach there, who I was kind of helping doing some recruiting and sending like, hey, maybe this person might be, worth mentioning. Can I give him your number? Sure. Well, the next day I call him and I'm like, hey, I think I might have a recruit for you from Golden West. And he goes, oh, well, yeah, I would love his name. What's his number? And I go, well, it's me. And he goes, you want to come back and play again? I think I would have been 21, 22 at that time. I go, yeah, I do. I was thinking maybe I was going to go to Cuesta because I was a little older and the San Luis Obispo area, I had a friend there, but I was like, no, I think I got to stick with this. I've had a few moments in my life where something like that's kind of happened, and I try to, even if it's scary, buy into it. So I go back, kind of the same thing. I had a really good friend, Connor, who let me stay at his house. It was just a 1-bedroom little apartment. I got a job. I had some skills that I gained in the Central Valley, just for a local restaurant. Worked as hard as I could, started the off-season training for that. That was the spring of 2018. So it's just like, I'm going all in. If I'm going to do this, and I got one more push here for JC ball, I'm not thinking NCAA at that point or anything like that. I'm just thinking, I want to play one more year. I'm a center defender. So I go back and I go, Eric, it's so good to see you. This is another coach who's done a ton for my life, and we'll get into that. I go back, working 2 jobs, doing all the off-season training. At this point, I know how to do it right. Like, I've been coaching kids. I know the right way to do it. And I go, Eric, like, how are we looking? How was the season last year? And we were like 3-20. I go, oh my goodness. This might be a little tougher. And so I'm like I said, I'm 22, and most of the guys obviously at JC Ball are like 18, 19. And I meet a guy, Jake Bowers, who's my assistant coach at Jesuit, and one of my favorite people I've ever met in this world. He goes to, I don't have a car at this time. He goes to pick me up and drive me back. And he's coming from El Dorado Hills to make sure I can get to practice. Cause he's like, no, we have a center defender. This guy could be pretty solid for us. Like, this might work. Then we get another buddy. So word gets out like, hey, there's this guy at ARC. He's pretty good. He's in his early 20s. Maybe we can build something here. And word gets out. So we get a bounce back from Air Force, a center who's really, really solid. And then we get another local, really, really strong player named Ian Brady, who had some opportunities to play at UCLA. Really, really good player who comes out. All these guys come in and assist with Jesuit. It's become a really beautiful thing here in the community. Anyway, we kind of build this team that ends up going from, last year they were 3-20 to we win the first Big 8 conference championship in program history. We beat, and I hate to dish on other schools, but we beat West Valley, who's a NorCal powerhouse for the JCs. That was a really beautiful moment. And I get coach's award. I'm getting some stability. I'm, finishing my education. And Eric Black, he was the head coach at ARC before Zach Kerner came in, who's another huge influence, who I know is, I think, pretty well known in water polo world for the USA water polo, and a big mentor for me. Eric Black, though, tells me, hey, I want to hire you as an assistant coach this next year, right after this 2018 season. And obviously he's looking out for me to make sure that I'm having opportunities. He knows that the sport means so much to me, and playing and coaching it. And so he hires me, in the next year I'm a assistant coach at the college that I just played and won the Big Eight championship with for the first time in program history.
This fantastic journey, and people keep showing up in your life to kind of help make you get to the next place, take the next big step. I'm curious if it's happened then or in recent years. Have you been able to like exhale and say like, I have what I need when it comes to life and purpose? Does that never go away? I'm curious your take.
It is certainly, that's a really good question. It is certainly, you're in survival mode so long, right? And then you put the pressures of, I want to win championships. I want to give and get as much as I can out of this sport from the time that's been invested. I'm getting better at it. As I just hit the sunrise of my 30s, I'm getting better at it of peace. But I mean, the last 5 years, it's club. And then at one point I was doing ARC. I got hired at Jesuit as a freshman coach, and then club season all year round. Like, I'm learning how to catch my breath, but this sport has done so much for me, Greg. I mean, so many opportunities. I mean, from various places, right? And people that care, that now I can kind of take a breath and see it in a different way, right? And especially like the coaching side over the last 5 or so years has been much more like, hey, catch your breath, plan a season, organize it. And it is a different structure to it, but this sport's given me the opportunity to make a life and make a name of myself and have my story be told here. And so I'm getting better at it. Right now, like you said, our season just ended. We came up just short of getting to the section finals, but I'm already thinking about, well, how do we get a blue banner here? How do we get, this is the next part, right? Like, okay, we did the high school part. I want to say we did the high school part. We turned that program around. And I forgot to mention, Major ended up staying with that program for almost 13 years, and they became the Visalia powerhouse, and they won section championships. Like, so that part, great. We got the storybook ending. Love it. College, came back, finished it. We got the Big Eight championship. Kerner's there now. And hopefully we'll get a chance to get into that to get to this point too. Storybook ending there. ARC's now a powerhouse for the 3C2A. Like, and now the next part for me is, all right, well, if coaching's what I want to do, how do I continue to make sure Jesuit is, a good program. And it's not, this is all great, right? It's a great story, but there's a lot of work that comes into it as well to make sure that you're not just there for, the spectacle of it all. Like, are we teaching zone correctly?
Work and you grinded to get this stuff done to get to where you're at. I have lots of, I think, big picture questions of kind of how, in a position where you're mentoring young athletes, whether it's club or high school, and the impact you can have on them and how your experience translates to the way that you talk to them. I think the first one I was curious about was the idea of perseverance and what you learned growing up. It would seem to me as a coach, everything you've been through, you talked about missing several years in a row of elementary school, or being one to go shopping as a 7 or 8 year old, or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
If you think back on that and someone's unhappy about playing time or long practice, what message are you sharing, and how has your past shaped the way that you deliver it?
Yeah. Those are certainly big questions that come up. And, I always, for me, remember that, everybody's journey's weighted the same in their mind, right? Like, certainly, like, you can see somebody that's had a difficult past or overcame a lot of obstacles, but a kid that wants playtime, right? That's a great example. His goals aren't any different than what mine were when I was going through it. The system, like it's that to them is the most important thing that's in front of them, because they're working, right? Most of the time they're working as hard as they can. The big thing that I try to remind kids with playing time or whatever background, right? Like, I mean, there's always the talk of like Jesuit's a private high school in Sacramento, and how can you relate to these athletes? Well, it's a human experience. This is a human experience, especially athletics. It's an even playing field. You're going to get, what you put into it and what comes out of it. And reminding athletes too, like, your value doesn't just come from what you contribute in the water. Your value comes from your humanity and your reaction to experiences or your reaction to adversity, right? Like, and I'm lucky that I've had those experiences, and I think it's a little easier probably for some of these guys to hear it when they know my background.
Yeah.
But I don't try to give them my background right off the bat. This year was one of the first years that I did that, and probably what has led to a news outlet or all these things. Like, those things don't define you, right? Like, I've had kids that, at Jesuit specifically, that, their junior year, they had a minute or two. It's a very, very competitive world, but stuck with it and kept working and get themselves in a position where it's like, okay, a couple minutes, or all right, now I'm starting. And it's just a time frame. Like, that's the other thing I remind them is, like, nobody is expecting you to do this on a perfect time frame. Like, I came back and played JC ball at 22, 23. I took multiple years in college. It doesn't define you. Are you creating a good atmosphere? This is what I ask myself as a coach. Are you creating a good atmosphere? Are you giving them instructions? Me and Coach Bowers, are we giving them instructions that, even if they can't produce at the level that's being asked right now, like, are they able to take that for life, right? Like, can they go play masters or clubs somewhere? Like, the information is a big part of it too. And then, yeah, like I said, atmosphere. Like, as I said at the beginning of this, and as I tell every team, my teams are my family. That's who I rely on and who I'm dependent on. And I know they feel the same way. And, the rest is a byproduct. And when, especially if you're talking competitive sports, you don't hang up a blue banner or a championship or get to the end of the season and go, wow, one person really did all of that. It's a team sport. Yeah. So I think that perseverance and then, creating an atmosphere where it's like, dude, I'm just happy to be here. I'm thankful to be here. This is like, I'm getting what I want out of this, right? Like, I might have goals that I want to reach in playtime or whatever it is. But I think as a coach, you want to be the person that's like, well, I'm going to do everything I can to try and help you reach these goals and where it is, where it's at, and being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Another topic I think is so critical in team sports is trusting each other, right? The trust to make the pass or to catch the pass or to work as a unit.
Yeah.
What's your message on that? When I have to imagine you had doubts that was even a thing for you in life, right? Could I trust in this next home or in this system or in this person, right? How do you share that message?
Yeah. Trust is not an easy thing to win or to gain or whatever. But I mean, for our sport, right, it's the conditioning. It's all the hours that you do outside of it, especially this super specialized club stuff now, right? Like, which is the nature of the beast. You have to do it year round. When you're around these people this long, and I don't even just mean our great community at Jesuit. I mean, like, let's talk Sacramento in general. Like, all these clubs kind of train together. You know who, and this is anywhere, I guess, but that trust is being built in those small little areas, right? Like the time you spend together practicing, the time that you spend, traveling to tournaments or wherever. I think the number one thing is, and you can't fake this in this life. I for sure have seen it and learned this, is when somebody cares about you, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. A coach cares about you, or a teammate cares about you, or the buy-in is there. The trust comes naturally. Even if you have a guy that's not a center that's going for a post-up, we're going to give you the ball. We trust you. Your goalie, we trust you. We trust you to make a 5-meter block or a one-on-nobody save to bail us out, or even if we're in it. Like, these things, they take work and they take dedication. They take time and effort. And, sometimes you're going to make mistakes or fail, but it's all those little pieces that build to the big idea, right? And it's time and it's investment. And when you look at an athlete, for me, right? Like, I look at an athlete's eyes, they know, like, I'm not, right? I'm not here to prohibit you in any way or sit you because I don't want you to play or whatever. And that's a trust. Like, and I've been really lucky and fortunate that I've been able to display that and get that across. And I trust my athletes. Like, it happens many times where my assistant coach is like, hey, we're going in this direction. And I'm like, yeah, we got to trust this. Like, this person's earned it. And so it's not an easy thing. And you have to the reality and the short answer to your question is you have to be willing to be vulnerable again. And you kind of have to put yourself in that position to yeah, you might not score, you might not get the help you need or whatever it is, right? But the key is to show up again and not harden your heart and not be vulnerable. Like, yeah, it has to be earned, but
yeah. Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure we get to
No.
a few of these things and that
Yeah.
everyone enjoys this whole conversation. I could talk to you for probably three hours.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that's happening just a few days before Thanksgiving, a big family holiday. I think a time people kind of pause to be grateful. And I saw the story and thought, what a great reminder, as we so often talk about the big game or the big result. And I think your story is a good pause for people to kind of be grateful for all the things that maybe have gone right in their life. You talked a lot about your team is your family,
Yeah.
and you tell the guys that, and given your past, and I imagine the word family at times was like a sensitive topic. As you approach this holiday season, is it a thing you can enjoy? Is it something that brings sadness, happiness? How does the team kind of tie in? How do you kind of move across these moments each year? And what does family mean to you today compared to what maybe you wanted it to be or thought it should have been when you were a kid?
Yeah. Yeah. Family was certainly not a word that I put much weight into previously, especially in my early years through foster care and even just exiting. But now, I mean, it's everything. I'm going to see alumni who have come through the program who play at Air Force in Long Beach and UC Davis and Fullerton and all these great schools, like stuff that I'm like, wow, that was my dream. And I got to watch them go and do this. And I'm just looking forward to it. Super grateful for my families and my community, like my coaches and people I've met here, like I said, Zach Kerner, Eric Black, Major Rogers, Andre. There's so many different individuals and all of them through this sport, that, I'm thinking about this holiday, or I'm going to try and see, and I have plans to see, like I said, alumni right here before Thanksgiving break and spend time with them, catch up with them about how their season's going. And these are connections that are long still, or are still very deep after they go to college, like navigate, because it starts over. Like, oh, now I'm sitting the bench at this D1 school. Yeah, dude, you're at a D1 school, man.
Yeah.
You did it. You did it. Like, don't be discouraged. And yeah, I look forward to seeing these guys, my family, all the time. Christmas, Thanksgiving, on Overnght when I get to watch them play. Everything, like
Let's
it's
talk
amazing.
big picture Sacramento water polo.
Yeah,
Just a few more questions for you here. I think sometimes, especially in areas where the game is still growing, there's a feeling like, whoa, California has tons of water polo. It's like pretty well saturated. But Sacramento's an area where there's a lot of established high schools and clubs, as you alluded to, but it can get better. It can grow. It can be more kind of what's the excitement? What's the hope of coaches in that area to see the sport grow and expand and become an even bigger player within the state and regionally?
Yeah, great question. So this is something that I've talked to with my coaching staff and who I've mentioned also, Zach Kerner, who runs AR Club here for the men's side, and then he's the coach at American River College now. He was the old Jesuit coach before he helped me get this position. This is something we talk about all the time is growing our sport in this area, putting ourselves in that same map, right? Like right now, you talk SoCal, right? Obviously, big powerhouse for all athletes, all ages. And then the Bay Area for Northern California is what we talk about, like, San Mateo area and San Jose and Stanford Club, all that. We want to be in that conversation. That is certainly like the next goal, and we're building that community. So a lot of these guys that came through ARC or Sierra College over here, and the club program through here, like, we want to be on the map, and that takes groundwork. I think in some ways you always I go Big Red. I certainly want to see Jesuit win a section championship next year, but you also have to kind of look past those barriers too, of like, how can we create, a staple for the Sacramento area to be known as like, oh yeah, a lot of really solid players come out of LA, the Bay, and Sacramento.
Yeah.
And that takes, dedication. Guys that go and play D1 and then find their way back home, like stepping into the community and bringing those skills that they take from those D1 programs and continue to invest in it, right? Like finding quality athletes that maybe, played at JC's but didn't go take the next step, but are obsessed with the sport and want to learn it, or might not be the greatest shooters or can't swim the fastest, but they understand the sport and they're looking and can identify talent like that. So I think it's exposure. I think this certainly helps, and then reinvesting in your local community, right? So finding these guys that when they're done playing, like, hey, we would love to have you come. I know for a fact right now I'm talking to some guys that were really solid players for American River College and seeing what they want to do for AR Club or for Jesuit or anywhere. Like, I don't care where you want to coach. Like, if I can help you get, into anywhere in this area, let me know. And I'll put my name down, right, for these athletes. So that way you can start building it. And it's consistency. It always comes back to consistency. You have consistent coaches that consistently know the sport and keep up with it. You're going to have consistently good programs. And there's a love for the sport here. Yeah. There's a love for the sport here, Greg. Sacramento, this community loves this. It's a tight-knit community for water polo, and they love this sport. And there's a lot of guys here and gals that are working their butts off to try and break into that community in Southern California and the Bay Area.
That's well said. Well said. Talking with Josh Ford here. As we kind of wrap things up here, Josh, I'm curious, someone watches the CBS story, they watch this interview and they think like, man, I love this guy. I love his message. And like, I didn't even think about how I could help out kids that are involved in foster care. What's a way someone could tangibly make a difference for a kid in foster care? Of course, they could become a foster parent themselves, right? But right. In addition to that, what are ways people could help?
I think CASA, and CASA is not just unique to Sacramento. It's all over California. I believe it's all over the nation. And I should know more about that. But CASA is a great first step, man. That's just donating time once a week, checking in on a kid, take them to go see a movie or something, and then push them in a direction, right? Like you said at the beginning of this, like it's not bad kids that are in foster youth. It's not like kids that were troubled youth or have made so many mistakes of their own doing. A lot of it is circumstances that were out of their control. They just need somebody that's like, hey, this is kind of the direction you need to go, and gently or don't just hang out with them. Like, yeah. I mean, I think that there's plenty of opportunities, but Google searching CASA or ways to donate in your local community for that is a really good start. And even outside of that, like any kind of coaching or opportunity to get involved in a community is going to go a long way. And you'll be surprised the stories that you find. And I'm sure there's probably, and I mentioned this to you when we were talking privately, there's probably another Josh out there. I don't know if it's in water polo or whatever, but these stories are out there. And yes, it takes a continent, but it's nothing crazy. Like it's just good advice, and that'll go a long way for a lot of individuals. I mean, I'm just one guy, and now it's been hundreds of athletes that have come through and in connection with, and I'm super grateful for it. So.
And then last thing, that kind of covers off, I think, on the adults that maybe are watching this. But if you're a club kid right now watching this, you're a high school kid, and you find out there's a Josh on your team, and that's the first time you heard of it. What's the way that kids connected with you genuinely that made you feel a part of it and didn't make you feel different?
Exactly that. Like my circumstances never, described me as an athlete or prohibited or inhibited me from making connections with them. They're not any different, right? Like a foster youth isn't any different. It's a human being. The circumstances for them that they can't control kind of suck. But if they're out there and they're trying to play a sport, then you've already got something in common with them, probably more than most people do. And train, work hard. Like if you're out there and you want to be good, make your teammate really good. Now you're going to be a good team, right? Like generic stuff like that, but it goes a long way. And if they need assistance or they need help, like don't make them ask for it. Just show up. Like be a good teammate. Be a good teammate. I don't know how else to word that. A good teammate shows up.
This is a fantastic message from you, and I think good advice. And I appreciate you kind of being so open and honest with your story and your past. And I'm confident it'll help someone out there. So I appreciate you sharing, and obviously awesome to see everything you've been able to accomplish in the meantime, and wishing you and the Jesuit squad the best of luck come next season.
Yeah, meant for others. Go Big Red.
Once again, big thanks to Josh for joining us here. And now we go to our Malmsten Goal of the Week. Let's take you back to the Midwest Elite Fall Tourney. This one taking place just outside of Chicago. The Evanston Wildcat, Colin Garton. He's going to go long-range lob here. This is well beyond half. Talk about placement. This is to end the half here, just seconds to spare. And that is a stellar goal from young Colin Garton, burying it from long range. And appreciate Colin sending that one in. And that is our Malmsten Goal of the Week. Again, don't forget to send in your favorite play, goal, goalie, save. We'll share it right here on the show. You can send us a DM or share with Overnght as well. Let's take a look at what's ahead. We told you all about college water polo. That's what's happening. The big weekend here, first weekend in December, Division III National Collegiate Championship in Claremont, and then the NCAA Championship at Stanford. Don't forget to watch on both NCAA.com and ESPNU for the NCAAs, and then, of course, Overnght for the Division III National Collegiate Championship. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for joining us. And don't forget, when you're on the counterattack, look weak side.